Welcome. Today we're talking with Dr. Amy Brown, Associate Professor in Psychology and Department Head of Psychology. Dr. Brown, this month, Psychology Department is being highlighted as part of the College of Liberal Arts Centennial. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I just want to, welcome everybody to the launch of our sort of month-long focus on psychology. We will be highlighting the department in a number of ways. We're going to be really active on social media, so look for our posts on Facebook and I think probably on Instagram. I think there's going to be news media interviews, as well as we've got stuff on display. We're going to have stuff on display in the library, so you can check out some cool artifacts and products of the psychology department. Throughout this month, we're going to be focusing on some of the history of the department. We're going to be talking about some of the people, or highlighting some of the people, both students, faculty, alumni, some of the people who make the department what it is. We're going to be sharing some research videos, and that's one of the things that we're really focusing on. I think one of our strengths is our focus on research. The university is finally coming to understand the importance of undergraduate research, but I think we as a department have been recognizing the crucial role that students play in the research process. We've made a home for students to be involved in research for a long time, and we're just really excited to be continuing that. We have active, faculty who are active researchers, who have research labs where they involve students in their research. Students get to present at conferences. Students occasionally get publications out of their collaborations with faculty. So I think that's one of the things that we really want to highlight. And one of the ways we're doing that is by sort of, kind of kicking things off a little bit on October 6th with a research showcase. So it's going to be a day-long event via Zoom, where we're going to be talking a little bit about, or representatives of most of the research labs in the department are going to be saying a little bit about some of the research that they've done. And then we'll end the day with a couple panel presentations talking about how that basic research can be applied to real-world circumstances with faculty serving on those panels. So I'm really excited about it, and I hope that anybody who's watching this make sure to tune in on October 6th.
Thank you. Dr. Brown, can you tell us a little bit about your education?
Sure. I got my PhD in social psychology from Miami University, which is in Ohio, not Florida, in 2006. So I got my PhD in 2006, and then I did 3 years at a postdoc at the Research Institute on Addictions. It's currently the Research and Clinical Institute on Addictions, but they added the clinical to their label after I was there. So I was in Buffalo from 2006 to 2009, and then I started my faculty position at UL in fall of 2009. I've been here ever since.
Okay. And where did you get your undergraduate degree?
My undergraduate degree was at Centennial College in Louisiana. So I was a psychology major. So I am from Louisiana. I actually grew up in South Louisiana, did college in North Louisiana, and then became a Yankee for 9 years before moving back to Louisiana.
Okay. So you became a part of our faculty in 2009, did you say?
Yes.
Okay. And then what courses do you typically teach here at UL?
Primarily social psychology. At the undergraduate level, I teach a social psychology course generally once a year. I have taught it at the graduate level, although not for the past couple years. I also teach theories of personality. I've done that at the graduate level more recently, but I do also teach theories of personality at the undergraduate level, and I do occasionally teach the substance abuse class as well. I think those are my regular, the social and personality, undergrad and grad, and then the substance abuse course from time to time.
All right. So tell us about your research. Is there a framework that guides your work?
Yeah, so my research lab is the sexual violence research lab. So I'm interested in sexual violence as a social problem. And because my training is in social psychology, I really look at sexual assault, not the way people tend to, when you think research on sexual assault, you think studying survivors and the healing process of people who've been affected by sexual assault, and or maybe studying the perpetrator or motivations of perpetrators. I think that's what a lot of people are interested in, and I'm interested in those things too. I do care about those topics, but because my training is in social psychology, I tend to gravitate towards studies that look at sexual assault more from that social lens. So I'm really interested in how we think about the problem of sexual assault. So not necessarily the consequences of assault for survivors, but more like how we as humans respond to sexual victimization. So I look at things like stigma of sexual violence. So, unfortunately, still, things are getting better, but we still live in a world where survivors of sexual assault are blamed or stigmatized for what happened to them, where, people avoid victims or don't want to talk about it, and that kind of thing is harmful to victims. So I'm interested in some of the factors that contribute to people's kind of stigmatizing reaction. So why is it that when we learn about a woman who was sexually assaulted, why do we hold her more responsible if she was drinking versus if she wasn't drinking at the time? So I'm interested in kind of those thought processes on the parts of observers. And I'm also interested in kind of on the flip side, or maybe following from that, is what people can do as pro-social bystanders to prevent sexual assault. So this has been a prominent kind of prevention strategy is, instead of, for a long time, sexual assault prevention was about, teaching self-defense to women, or sort of institutional things that are meant to prevent stranger rape, which is great. But unfortunately, we know that most sexual assault is perpetrated by people that are, by people who know each other. And, having a self-defense class isn't necessarily that's not going to be your first inclination when it's your boyfriend or potential romantic partner who is the one who is being sexually abusive. So we need a better response than that. And we also know that telling men about what teaching men about sexual assault and telling them not to rape women or rape people. Again, that only goes so far. People don't like to hear those messages. No one likes to think about themselves as a potential rapist. So the bystander approach focuses on the community and says, this is all of our problems. We can all play a role. Like, sexual assault isn't just two people, an abuser and a victim. It happens in a context in which, we tolerate such things. We make excuses for such things. And there's a lot of things that we can do across some continuum where we can play a role of stepping up to keep this from happening. So that can include like actively intervening, so if you see somebody who's like, spiking someone to drink, saying something in that case, or if you see somebody who's, potentially, maybe isolate, at a party, if there's a guy who's, taking a really intoxicated girl and maybe isolating her, bringing her somewhere, that might seem suspicious. Yeah, maybe say something in those cases. But also we can intervene in a lot of different ways. So like, when someone makes rape jokes or makes victim blaming comments, we can call them out and, say that that's not acceptable. So I'm really interested in people's willingness and ability to be engaged in these ways. And I'm also interested in the role that bystander drinking can play on their kind of willingness and ability to get involved. So yeah, that's my research in a nutshell.
That's a lot of information. I was going to say, is there a study that you would like to highlight for us that you've done?
Sure, I'll talk about one study just because it was fun to do, I guess. So this was several years ago at this point, but I was able to get an undergraduate research mini grant, and I had a student, Melanie Shanky. She graduated several years ago, but she was an awesome research assistant. So she was my collaborator on this study, where we got a little grant and we bought a breathalyzer and we got food vouchers, and we went out to bars and to public places where people were drinking, and we had them respond to a bystander scenario, and we were able to test how intoxicated they were. So this allowed us to find out the extent to which bystander intoxication. So most of our other studies, we've asked people about their typical drinking habits. But this study, we were actually able to measure their intoxication in the moment while they were making a decision. Now, granted, they were, making a decision on a written questionnaire, but it was really fun to be able to send research assistants out to bars at 11 o'clock on a Saturday to collect data.
How fun. That sounds like a wonderful research project. I wanted to ask you, and I left it out earlier, but do you have any mentors that were particularly important in developing your career?
Sure. I'd say probably my most influential mentor was when I was in graduate school. I worked, research assistant position one year with Dr. Terry Messman-Moore, who's a clinical psychologist, but she was really interested in studying sexual victimization. And so I was able to help her run a year-long longitudinal study looking at women's experiences of sexual assault, and we collected data over 4 time points. So I kind of helped her run that study, and it started a collaboration with her that we still we don't collaborate as actively today, but we do still keep in touch. We still follow each other's research, and I was able to get authorship on a few publications that came out of the data that we collected. I was able to collect my master's thesis. I was able to put my measures for my master's thesis in with her grant-funded study and get all my data for my master's thesis in 2 weeks' time, which was pretty fantastic. And so she was the one who really got me interested in researching sexual violence. And while her perspective was from a clinical psychology, I was still sort of able to, kind of meld my interests in sexual violence and social psychology. And then another important mentor was Dr. Maria Testa. So I worked with her at the Research Institute on Addictions. So she was my postdoc mentor, and she really got me thinking about how I could look at alcohol, the role that alcohol plays in these processes that I was already interested in. So I'm really thankful for the mentorship that I got from them.
Indeed, indeed. Now, you've got a really active research lab, I know. If students are interested in becoming involved, what should they do?
They should first reach out to me. So my research lab, unlike some of the others, my research lab, I do have a selection process, and my lab meetings are not open. So the only people who can attend lab meetings are people who have already kind of been vetted and been admitted into the lab. And I keep the group small because we talk about sexual violence. So, this is a sensitive topic, and I want to make sure that, kind of everybody is coming to this with, a really kind of compassionate mindset. I don't want people in there who hold a lot of those stereotypes that we want to study, but we don't necessarily want to endorse them within the lab session. So I generally only bring in a couple new people a semester, and so I sometimes have a backlog. So like if someone contacts me like 2 weeks into the semester, I'm like, no, we're full for the semester. I can take your application and maybe we can talk for next semester. So the thing that I would encourage people to do who are interested is certainly reach out to me. I'm happy to talk with somebody, let them know about what we do in the lab, and then I kind of have a little application process. And if they're serious about wanting to join, then I'll send them an application. And once I get that back, then I'll hold on to that. And assuming that I'm satisfied with that interaction, both in the interview and in the application. Whenever I do have an opening, then I'll kind of reach out to somebody.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Brown, for speaking with us today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.